Got a 7th generation Honda Accord here. As you can see, it's a 2-door coupe. It's got an issue with the power window here on the driver's side. Let's check it out, see what we got going on. Alright, got the key on. Window's up. Let's see what it does. And going down, it doesn't do anything. I don't hear it doing anything in there. See if the passenger one works. Yeah, the passenger one works, so looks like we got power to our unit here, the control unit or switch here, but definitely nothing going on here. And yeah, it looks like somebody's been here before. Yeah, somebody's definitely been here before. You can see these have been pried up right here. I suspect somebody tried to replace these combination switches without knowing what they were doing. I don't know. That's what it looks like though. Alright, if we're going to troubleshoot this window system, we need to know what we're up against. The best way I've found to do that is look at a wiring diagram. So let's grab a wiring diagram, see what we're up against. Alright, as you can see, I have a wiring diagram here. You can get wiring diagrams for many vehicles from BBB Industries and they're free. They also have technical service bulletins on there, so that's a great resource. If you don't have access to wiring diagrams and service information, try BBB Industries and they might have what you need. And no, BBB Industries isn't paying me to say that. I know it's free and it's a good service, so that's why I like to point it out to you guys. Alright, now looking at our wiring diagram here, it's not drawn, but the battery would be over here, and so power is coming in this direction, and then it branches off. It goes to fuse 27 right here, and then it comes over here to the power window relay. You can see it powers up both legs of the window relay, and then from there it goes on from this window relay. It goes on to fuses 24, 25, and 26, and that's going to be in the under dash fuse box, not in the hood. And fuse 24 and 25, if you have a 4-door, they go to the rear door windows, and then fuse 26 would go to the passenger door. So we'll look at that in a little bit. This side right here comes down to our power window master switch right here. And in looking at our master switch here, right here, this, and this, these are all of our switches. Now, we only have this one and this one on this model. We don't have the rear switches on this, but all these are our switches right here, and then this box right here represents our door multiplex control unit. So as you can see, there is a control module inside this switch. So whenever you reset it, this is what you're resetting. You're resetting this control module right here. And then we have our main on and off switch, which controls our rear or our rear and passenger windows. When you turn that off, it's going to cut power to these 3 switches right here. And then from our main switch right here, it goes down to our window motor right here, and then this area right here, that's what Honda calls a pulser, and basically it sends high-low pulses back to the control unit, and when the window's moving either up or down, and when those pulses stop, that's when the control unit knows it's either all the way up or all the way down. Or if it sees long pulses, it knows something's in the way, and so it stops it. Let's see, this wire right here would be 03 and 04 models, and then later models have this wire over here. But we're not really concerned with the auto feature right now. We're more concerned with the power feeds going to that motor. Alright, so as you can see, looking at our switches, they are all directly wired to our control unit in here. So it's really difficult, well really it's impossible to see if the contacts on these switches are good or bad because it talks directly to the control unit. So we can't see what's going on between here, and we can't really test it. The only way you can see that is with a good factory capable scan tool. I'll show you that here in a minute. But yeah, that's what makes these a little more challenging to diagnose on these BCAN systems, because we can't see what's being communicated right here. Because all these are just switch inputs, just high-low signals that are going down to this control unit. And then from there, the control unit controls the power. Not only from here, but to the other windows. Okay, so with reasonable certainty, we have one power feed coming in, and we know that's probably good because our passenger window works. And if we did not have power on this control unit right here, then we would not be able to power up the other window. And then this is actually a ground, and it's controlling this relay right here. So when you press your main on and off switch, when you turn it off, what you're doing is you're cutting the ground right here. Because if you didn't know, as power comes in, we've got this coil of wire right here, and so when this leg is grounded, it energizes this coil of wire, sends power through it, and what that does, anytime you have a coil of wire with energy flowing through it, you create a magnetic field. So this creates a magnetic field around here, and then this switch right here is metal. And so once this magnetic field is created, it attracts this metal switch, which closes. And once that closes, it allows power to flow through right here. You can see it's normally open like this. Once it's closed, when we have that magnetic field, power will come down through here and then go to all three of our windows through the fuses. So now, because we only have a two-door, let's look at the wiring diagram right here on this power feed. Alright, and as you can see from our second page here, this is the under dash fuse box right here, and then this is another view of our power window master switch, and as you can see, it's showing our multiplex control unit inside there. And this line right here, you can see, talks to the multiplex control unit, which is inside the fuse box. So you can see there's another control unit, another module that it talks to, and you can see that the multiplex unit in the door receives information from the keyless receiver. So when you press the button, if you hold it, you can bring the windows down. I showed that in another video. Let's see, and you can see when you turn the keys and hold it in one direction or the other, you're actually sending a signal to the multiplex unit, and you can control the windows that way if you didn't know. In addition to the door locks, you can actually control the windows. And right here, here's a view of our front passenger window switch. And so you can see it gets the up-down signals from the multiplex control unit from the power master switch, and it sends those signals over. And if we look closely, this is a representation of the actual switch that you press up and down. And then right here and right here, those are relays. And if you remember, this is number C coming from the other page, so this is our power feed coming in. And so as you can see, our power feed comes in and then is split. It goes to this switch, and then it goes to this relay, and it goes to this relay right here, and it ends. You see how in the normally closed position or off position, the power ends right there. And so when we press the button, let's say we press the button in this direction, what we're doing is power comes in and it stops right here. So when we press the button, now we're bringing the switch closed, and power comes down through here, and you can see that's a diode, so we can't go any further than that. So the power is going to come over here, and then it's going to energize this relay just like the other relay. And you can see this leg of it comes over and goes to a ground. So that's what we need to energize this coil. We need a ground and a power. So once we're pressed that, we're powering up this relay. That closes this contact switch, and that allows power now to come down to our motor right here. This is represented when you see the M like that. That's our motor right here. This is a circuit breaker that's built into the motor, if you didn't know, that little thing. And so now we have power on this side when we press the button that way, and let's follow this side. This side comes over, and you can see that in our normally closed position, the contacts are like this. It goes up over here. It can't go through that way. That's another diode. And you see these little, I don't know what they called, little squiggly lines with an arrow. That's light. So this is a light emitting diode. So it's not going to go that way. So then our power is going to come down, or I should say our ground, and you can see we're grounded. So that means when we press the button the way we did, we have ground over here and we have power over here. Now let's press the button the other way. Power comes in, we're pressing the button this way, so now power comes in, goes down. Once again we hit this diode, it's not going to go any further, so it's going to go this way to our relay on this side. Same thing, we have ground on this side, so it's going to energize this coil. It's going to close this contact switch, and that's going to allow power to come down and go through over to our motor. So now we have positive on this side. And so let's follow this side. We come over and it goes up and around and all the way over, and you can see we have ground. So pressing the button in the other direction, we have power on this side now and ground over here. And that's how these things are working. So you can see it gets kind of complicated. We can't really see inside the switch to see, are these contacts bad or is it the relays that go bad, because they can all go bad. So it makes it a little more difficult troubleshooting, and even on a scan tool you can't see this information. And so the best checks that I like to do, I always like to go to the motor and look for power and grounds while working the switches that way. And then if I don't have it there, we start working our way back. Now, because we have a multiplex control unit right here, and we also have one in the fuse box, that means we can talk to these windows on a scan tool. So let's hook up the scan tool and see what we can see. We'll go into body electrical. And now we're inside the body control module. Let's go ahead and look. Let's look at our beacon control unit information. And you can see our power window unit is on the beacon. So that's why we can talk to it and control it. Let's go back out. Let's go to the power windows. And let's look at, you know what, let's do an active test first. I'll show you something. So now we know that the power windows on the passenger side work. And it's in the down position right now, as you can see. So now we're going to hit front passenger window up. It's going to tell us that it'll operate for 3 seconds, right? Yeah, 3 seconds. We're going to hit OK. You can see, there you go. Window went up. We can go over here, do the same thing going down. We'll hit OK. You can see, now it went down. It's definitely a nice way to be able to test things right from the bench here. Now, let's do the same thing with the driver's window. Let's hit down. We'll hit OK. You can see nothing going on at all. It's definitely not working. And so now we know it's not working, which we already knew that anyway, but I just wanted to show you that even with the scan tool here, it's not going to work. Let's look at some live data. Alright, looking at some live data here. Right here you can see, here's our power window master switch. We got the drivers up and down right there, and then we got the passengers up and down right there. Obviously we don't have any rear windows in this vehicle. And then also the auto up and down right there, we can see that. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and then actually our main switch right there, that would be this switch right here. Watch when I just turned it off. You can see now it's off. You can see the button's down and it's off. Now when I lift the button back up, it's off, or I should say it's back on now. And you can see with the button up, our main switch is on right there. So at least we know, as far as an input standpoint, that is working. Now let's look at when I hit the switches. Let's watch what it does. Alright, now I'm just going to bring the switch up like that, and let's see what it does. Or let's see what the scan tool shows. Now I'm lifting up right now. You can see they went on. You can see I'm not actually pulling up on the auto switch yet, and it's showing on. And just feeling the switch, it's definitely beat up. Somebody's been here messing with this thing, and or somebody's just really rough on it. So definitely that should not be doing that. Let's see if I do it a little lighter. Yeah, see, I went a little bit lighter, and now our auto's not showing that it's on. Now I pulled it on. Now that's how it's supposed to work. So definitely a little bit of a contact problem right there, but not the end of the world, and it's not going to cause it not to work. Now I'll let it off, and you can see they both went back to off. Now we'll press it down, and we should see the down right there turned on. And you can see there it went. and now it's just down. I held the auto on the first one. You can see the auto's off. Then I pushed the auto, and now the auto went on. So the switch inputs look like they're working. For sure, the inputs are getting to the master or the control unit that's inside, the multiplex unit that's inside this master switch. The signals are getting there, and then they're getting sent out to the scan tool. Now we don't know if the signals are making it from, or the commands are making it from the power unit down to our motor here, but for sure they're communicating inside there. And I'll show you the same test on the passenger window. I'll just do the same up down on the passenger window. And let's see, right now I'm going up. You can see up is on, and now it's off. Now I'll go down, and you can see down is on, and then I let off. So all of our inputs are working right there. And you can see on our front passenger, where is it? Front passenger power window motor command. You can see from the drivers here, we can see the command either on or off. And you can see, so our signals, our commands are working right there. But now, if I do it from over here, watch. You can see that there's no change doing it from the passenger side, and that's because over here on these older models there's no control unit in there. On newer models with the and usually you can tell because they have an auto up down feature on the passenger side window also. There's a control module inside the switch, just like the driver's one. There's also a multiplex control unit in the fuse box that's down there. There's nothing over here on this model, and that's why we can't see the commands on the scan tool from this side. Alright, now we saw that our commands are working from the scan tool, so that means these switches are talking to our control unit, and our control unit is getting the information back to the engine computer so we can see it on our scan tool. But we don't know if we have power and ground being applied to our motor right here. So now the next thing to do is we need to take this door panel apart. We're going to go right to this connection for the motor. We're going to test. We're going to look for red and yellow, pin number 1, and red and black, pin number 4. We're going to put a test light on there and test it. And to get these door panels off, it's pretty easy. There's 2 screws right there with a cover on top. You got to pop the cover out first. Get those screws out, and then there's 1 screw right over here and 1 screw right over here from underneath. You got to pop those out. Once you do that, you can just pop all the clips out just by prying it out. Then we can just lift it off and unplug it. Alright, once you get the door panel off, first thing you'll probably want to do is get this lock disconnected. And to get it disconnected, you can just push this clip over and lift the cable out just like that. Alright, and then after that, we just have to disconnect our connectors. You can just press the tabs in and pull them down on each one of these. And then our little light right here, I pulled the bulb so it's not on because we got the door open. But this just twists out, and then there's a little connector right there. It's easiest just to squeeze those tabs in. I just use a long needle nose pliers, squeeze the tabs in. You can pop this out without breaking it. You could probably try to pry it out too, and it probably won't break. And then I pop the switch out for testing. In order to get that switch out, I go from underneath after this panel's off. I go from underneath, and then I just kind of, you can see there's 2 tabs, one right here, one right here. I just kind of squeeze them a little bit while pressing this. I usually just use long pliers, and then with my other hand just kind of press with my finger, and it'll pop right out. Do one, then do the other, and you can pop it out without breaking anything. You can try prying them from here and just bring it up this way, but these things are just cheap little plastic right here, this and this. It's a good chance this one might not break. There's a good chance you're going to break this one. That's why I do it the other way. And now we got to get this dust shield off. On newer vehicles that that haven't been sitting around too long, a lot of times you can just peel this back and it'll come off, and you can peel it all the way around. You may even use a heat gun to heat it up a little bit and then get it off. These vehicles out here in the desert where I live, this stuff just becomes nasty, and if I heat it up it'll be all stringy if it doesn't just crack and break. I don't even bother with them once the vehicles get a few years old. So I'm just going to cut it with a razor blade on the inside, and then I'll seal it back up with all weather tape. Alright, now with the dust shield out of the way, you can see the reference here from near the speaker. On these two doors, it's right here. We just got to squeeze the tab in on the back and unplug it. Squeeze that tab, and that's our 6-pin connector right there. Some of the 4 doors, the plug will be out here pinned to the door and won't be on the inside. What did we say? Red with black and red with yellow? Is that what we said? I think that's what we said. I'll have to go verify and make sure. Usually it's the 2 fattest wires on there. Probably this red with yellow one right here, and this red with black. So I think those are our 2 main power going down to the window regulator. That's where we're going to test. Right, now we want to test this circuit going over to the window regulator. Best way to test a system is to put it under a load, and for that I'm going to use my homemade test light. This is made from a 9006 headlight bulb. This is it pulls 4 amps, so this will definitely put a stress on the system and test our circuit really well. I just have these T-pins cut off and soldered onto the end, so it makes it easy for testing inside these terminals without damaging them. So as you see, I got the switch plugged back in, I got the key on, and then these are our 2 power feeds coming in. And so that's our top 2 terminals right there. So all I'm going to do is touch these inside here. I'm not going to press them in there to damage the connectors. I'm just simply going to touch them just like that. And now I'm going to operate the switch. As you can see, there's down, and there's up. Down, up. As you can see, nothing wrong with this circuit. If it can light a 4 amp bulb like this, it definitely can carry enough load to power that window. So this vehicle needs a power window regulator. Now a test light like this one is one of the best ways, if not the best way, to test an electrical circuit on a vehicle. It allows it to quickly identify if you got a good power and a ground. If you don't know how to make these, because this is homemade, Eric O from South Main Auto did a video on how to make these, so I'll link to that, and you can make your own. Alright, so in this case, this vehicle needs a new window regulator. And, you know, it was a pretty quick and easy test. Now, what if I would have hit the buttons and I did not have power and ground here? Well, in that case, I would trace these wires back, and I would look for the same 2 wires. I'd look for these 2 wires right here on this switch. They may or may not be the same color. I'd have to look at the wiring diagram to see if Honda wired them exactly the same. They probably are. But I'd look for them here, and I would do the same test right here on the back side. And if I still didn't have power and ground here coming out, then what I would do is I would start testing the powers and the grounds coming into this unit right here. And if all my powers and grounds are good coming into the switch, then most likely it's a bad switch. If the power and grounds are not coming in, then we got to trace these wires back and to where they go. A lot of times the ground is grounded inside here. Sometimes it's grounded in the engine area. But we got to find out, is the ground still intact? And if it is, then we got to find our power feeds coming in. Those fuses, what was it, 24, 25, 26, and 27, we got to make sure those fuses are all good. And then if that's the case, if we've lost power on the other windows, we want to make sure that that power window relay is good. And also, you know, as I showed before, that power window relay is controlled by this switch right here. So if this switch is bad, you will definitely lose your control on that power window relay, which will make all your other windows not work. So these are all things to factor in. But the most common problems would be a bad switch or power control unit, and then probably the number one thing is a bad window regulator. Alright, seeing as we're here, we'll do a couple more tests. Now, I just have a standard incandescent test light. This one is an OTC 3636, but you can get an equivalent one from Harbor Freight for like $4 or $5. And you can see I have it hooked up to battery positive, so whenever we find a ground like this, it lights up. See that? So let's go over to the power windows and do some checks. Alright, as you can see, I still have it plugged in. Now, just like with the other windows when we went through the wiring diagram, this window will have ground on both of these wires in the rest position, or it should. And it's the same for all the windows. And so all we need to do, because we have our test light connected to battery positive, as soon as we find a ground, it'll light up. So there should be a ground on these two wires if it's operating correctly. So we'll check the ground real quick on those two top wire terminals right there. Alright, there's our two terminals, and I'm just touching it in there, just like that, and you can see we're lit up. Just touching it. I'm not shoving it in there. We don't want to damage these connectors, otherwise we'll have another issue. But you can see that both of those have ground just like they're supposed to. Alright, and as soon as we have our test light still connected to battery positive, there's a couple more ground checks we can check. We're going to check pin 1, pin 2, and pin 3 right there for ground. You can see this is a full-time ground. This should be a full-time ground on pins 1 and 2. And then on pin 3, if you remember, that goes up to our relay control. So when we turn our switch off, when we turn that off, although it doesn't show it, that's going to pull the ground off of this. And I'll show you that with a test light. So as you can see, terminal 1 is a black wire, terminal 2 is a black wire, terminal 3 we're looking for a white with a green. And so you can see, looking at our switch here, there's terminal 1, 2, and 3 right in a row. If I can point it out with my fat fingers. Terminal 1 is a black wire, terminal 2 is another black wire, terminal 3 is that white with green. So we're just going to test these first 3 wires right there. Alright, using our test light, still connected to battery positive. Terminal 1 there, we have a good ground. Terminal 2, it's down further in there, but we can hit it with the test light. You can see we got a good ground there. Terminal 3 also down in there a little bit, and you can see we have a good ground on that. Now that's with the switch up. What I'm going to do is I'll press the switch down, and you watch how it pulls the ground off of it. So right there, we're good to go. Then I'll press the button, and you see how it's off. Turn it on, off, and you can see that's what it's doing to stop the windows from working on the rest of your car. You know, when your kids are messing around or whatever, that's all it's doing. Oh, I'm moving the test light around, but that's all it's doing, is it's pulling the ground. This switch right here is pulling the ground off the relay, the window relay that's in there. So the control for the window relay is gone, the rest of the windows won't work. So if you have a problem with all the rest of your windows and the only one that's working is the driver's one, there could be a problem with either the relay or the ground of the relay, which is right here, or goes through here, I should say. It still continues on, and most of them are grounded right down here in the footwell, but in most cases it's usually either the switch or the relay. Alright, one more test we can do. We're going to test for power, and so to do that we need to have this over on ground. And so now that we're grounded, anytime we hit a power, our test light will light. And you can see why I like to use the power probe for quick tests like this. We don't have a lot of lead. If this battery was on the other side or in the trunk or something, then I would have to use a jumper wire or something like that. But with a power probe, it has 23 feet of lead. I can go anywhere around the vehicle. So that's why I like to use it a lot. And I can supply power to the tip of the power probe, and it has a ground. So I can do power and ground checks with an actual test light using a power probe, and it's a convenient way to have power and ground there. So, but I'm trying to show you with just a simple test light and how you can do these checks. Alright, now we'll go back to our diagram, and you can see through fuse 27, that 20 amp fuse, that's where power comes into the master switch. And so we're looking for a green with a white tracer, and we're going to check for power. So this is pin number 10. We're looking for power on that green and white wire. Alright, looking at our switch, as you can see all the way over here at the end, that's our green with white. If you were able to count these, you can see 1, 2, 3 is where we were testing before, then 4 is that blue wire, 5 is empty, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You can see that's cavity 10 right there. So that's the one we're going to test for power. Alright, with the test light connected to battery negative, now we're looking for a positive. And there you can see right there, power's good. So we got main power coming into the unit, and our unit is grounded. So we have everything we need for this switch and this motor to work. And if I was testing the other windows on the vehicle, I would do the same thing. I would look for my ground, I would put my test light to battery positive and look for a ground. And on the power feed, I'd put my test light to negative and look for power coming in. No different. And as you saw from the testing, a new window regulator is what's going to fix this vehicle. So now I got to get a new one so I can get this thing fixed and back on the road. Well, there you go. Hope you enjoyed this video on how I go about troubleshooting these Honda Power Window systems with BCAN networks. And most of the time, I can check them out and fix them with simple test lights and a wiring diagram. If I didn't have my fancy scan tool, this is exactly how I would diagnose them anyway. I would just use my test lights and a free wiring diagram from BBB Industries, and I'd go about testing the circuits. And as always, hey, video helped you out or you liked it, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Thanks for watching.